Chapter 210 to 212. In Kami-sama's palace, where only Mr. Popo, one of Bulma's bodies and an evacuation spaceship were found. However, suddenly two people appeared out of nowhere near them. "Hi guys. I'm sorry for being so late," Goku Super Saiyan said in a happy and casual way, who appeared next to them with a little Namekian. Yes, he's Dend. However, he wasn't received with the kindness and joy that he expected. "Goku, where the hell have you been? Are you aware of how long it took you? Do you know everything that happened while you were away?" Bulma yelled with bloodshot eyes as she grabbed Goku by her neck too. Wah-heh. Strangling the same way that a certain bald, fat, yellow father does to his spiky-haired son. Ah! Who is this terrifying person? Den thought with great fear as he looked for some place to hide from that terrifying monster that had ambushed them upon reaching Earth. "I'm sorry Bulma, but Broly has placed the planet Namek very far from anywhere, so it was impossible for me to detect the key of any Namekian, and without that I can't teleport." Not even North Kai found it easy to know where he was. In fact, he needed to ask many other Kais for help so that from many different planets his strongest warriors would raise their ki one after another so that I could detect them reach Namek through of them. I had to make 36 stops to go and another 36 to return. It was very difficult, I swear. Besides, I didn't stop to fight with any of them. Goku screamed as best he could, while still being strangled by Bulma, begging for mercy, wishing his excuses would convince Bulma of his innocence. Some excuses that reassured Bulma, who stopped strangling him. "So it's Broly's fault. I see. I'll forgive you this time." And while trying to calm down and pretend that it hadn't been something excessive since it was Broly to blame, Bulma noticed the new guest hiding behind a palm tree. "Oh my, a mini Piccolo, so he's the new one. Kami?" A little guest who was scared to see that the attention of that violent being was focused on him now. Wait, she's acting nice towards me and doesn't give off the murderous aura from a few seconds ago. Then, isn't she an enemy? Den thought after analyzing the situation. Maybe she wasn't violent with everyone, only with Goku. However, Den wasn't the only unexpected guest. "Hello everyone, wow, you were right, he looks a lot like Piccolo," said a person who had just teleported to Kami's palace. And that person was Gohan. "Weren't you fighting?" "Oh I see, the multiplication technique, I almost forgot." "Wait. Have you teleported too? Wow, you've grown a lot. This brings me back old memories, like when?" Goku said, who had many questions and memories of a fictitious future past in which Gohan had already entered adolescence. Anecdotes that no one wanted to hear, especially at such a delicate moment, and especially Gohan, who was the one who was risking his life right now. "Dad, I'm sorry, but there's no time. I'll explain everything to you later." "Hello, are you the new Kami capable of creating the Dragon Ball?" Bulma said with great kindness, trying to improve the first bad impression that she gave to the new god of this planet. "Yes it is. Nice to meet you, my name is Dend," Dend said politely after stopping hiding behind a tree, realizing that Bulma wasn't a direct threat to his safety. "Dend, I know that this is all very hasty and that you are the one who would most want to ask the questions, but we are in a very critical situation right now, so I really need you to answer me," Gohan said, showing the great hurry he was in right now. So much so that he couldn't even introduce himself formally as his mother had taught him, especially with beings from another planet who had come to assume a very important position of responsibility. "All right. No problem," answered Dend, who was quite sympathetic to the situation. 1. Can you create the Dragon Balls right now to be used right now? 2. Can you make the Dragon Ball grant multiple wishes? 3. Can you make that with a single wish we can resurrect multiple people? Gohan asked in the most succinct way possible, explaining everything he needed to overcome the situation they were in. "The answer is yes to all your questions. But to re-establish the Dragon Balls quickly I would need to have the old Dragon Balls and the model of the dragon with which they were created. I can make that with a single invocation. He can grant more than one wish, but if you want a single wish to resurrect more than one person, the wishes will be limited to 2 per invocation," Dend replied in a very professional way, as if he had years of experience in the Kami sector. In fact, being more efficient than many others who had been working on it for billions of years. "Perfect then. Do we have everything we need to re-establish the Dragon Balls here, guys?" Gohan asked, who was very satisfied with Den's answer, despite the negative conditions. "Yes, Bulma brought the Dragon Ball, now I bring the model of the dragon," said Mr. Popo, who entered the temple to collect the sculpture of Shinran that the previous Kami, "We Will Always Love You," created in the past. And after a few minutes of waiting in which the Z warriors introduced themselves more formally to the little new Kami, who was a bit out of place. Gohan and Bulma told Goku everything that had happened while he was making scale trips through the universe. Gohan and Bulma commented live on the fight that Gohan was having against Cell, and they tried to prevent Goku from joining that fight, for which he was currently not prepared. Mr. Popo finally arrived with Shenron's sculpture and Den began to perform his magic around the sculpture. Todoroto paparunga pururapampo patempero papapopo totempipo pupipero panpampapa parapurapipo. Den said in his native language to perform the restoration magic trick of the Dragon Balls, which stopped being spherical stones to become the orange crystalline spheres with stars that we all know. Great! They are back to normal. Goku yelled enthusiastically, even though this was the second time he had attended this ritual. Quick Den, call the Shinron as soon as possible, Gohan said, that he couldn't wait another second. What? So soon? Goku exclaimed, who thought that they should wait for Cell to be defeated to make wishes calmly. Yes, Gohan has had a good idea to solve Cell's problem once and for all with the first wish, replied Bulma, who had already discussed this strategy with Gohan previously with her other body on the spaceship. Really? Wait. Remember that Shinron cannot kill Cell, he is much more powerful than Den. Goku said, reminding everyone of something that had already been very clear in previous sagas and that everyone already knew. Don't worry about that. It will definitely work, Bulma replied with great optimism. And while our heroes once again depended on an alien god and his magic dragon to fix their mistakes, the fight between Cell and Gohan continued. Palm. Palm. Clack. Plash. Crush high. Clack. Plash. Palm. Although it was a match that was totally at a standstill. Both were very even in terms of power and technique, which was making this fight much longer. If we add that neither could be mortally wounded, that one could regenerate almost all of his wounds and the other transfer all of his wounds to his adversary who could regenerate. And besides that they both had methods to regain their lost energy. The combat was endless. Damn brat. What the hell you pretend? Do you want us to be fighting all eternity to save this pathetic world? Said Cell, whose patience was reaching its limit despite his ability to regenerate and recover energy. Also, the fact that he was so limited due to Gohan's curse and because all the damage he did to Gohan was transferred to him was driving him crazy, to the point where he only attacked violently with hardly any defense. Pum. No, I'm afraid this is the end. Your end. Gohan said, who caught with his hand the punch that Cell had thrown at him, something that had already happened on other occasions. But this time was different, or rather, Gohan was different. What the hell is happening? What is this appearance? Cell thought as he observed Gohan's strange appearance right now. His hair lengthened while becoming wilder, reaching down to the middle of their back, while two long pointed bangs of hair appear on both sides of the neck and now a shadow trim around their eyes and over the eyelids. Not only that, he became larger in height and muscularity and almost all his body was covered by a brown monkey fur. But above all, Gohan now had a long monkey tail that danced in the air with freedom and arrogance. What Cell didn't know that Gohan had used Shenron's first wish to get his tail back, a tail that would instantly regenerate in the event it was severed, since Shenron was unable to create an indestructible or uncuttable one. And thanks that Gohan was able to regain his true Saiyan transformation. What the hell is this? I had no information on this either. What the hell happened to this past? Why is everything wrong? Cell thought with great indignation as he glared at Gohan with great anger. But while Cell kept cursing everything that could be cursed. Crash. Cell's fist was crushed by Gohan's hand. Ah. Let go. Cell screamed in pain as he repeatedly hit Gohan with all his might on the face and arms so that he would let his crushed hand. Pum. 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 However, he didn't get it. Gohan had become a very intimidating and immovable wall that didn't move an inch despite the hard blows of Cell. How is it possible? I'm not doing anything to him, he doesn't even flinch despite hitting him with all my might. What the hell? Is this a new trick? Cell thought as he stared blankly at Gohan, who kept surprising him in a bad way each time with a different ability. This is another trick, right? This is some kind of illusion, right? It's impossible for him to become so strong, right? Game over, Cell. Now I have all my power. Gohan yelled as he clenched his fist tighter and unleashed his true power. A power that combined the Super Saiyan, the Kaioken, the Kaioken X20, and the True Saiyan, thus creating the terrifying power multiplier of 20,000. Broom. 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 A power that made the whole world tremble. No. Not only that. It spread throughout the universe, alerting all living beings that someone was fighting against the greatest threat known until now of all creation, exonerating Moro, Beerus and Broly. And also made Cell feel the true terror. No. I can believe it. His power now is at least 10 times greater than mine. I have to escape into space. HaHaHa. He yelled at Cell as he tried to bear the pain he was feeling in his hand, and furthermore, prepare for the impending pain he would feel from amputating himself the arm trapped by Gohan. But Cell's arm/sword stopped against his will before he could cut off his own arm. How? I can't cut my arm. Have you ever heard that a fight between children ended in mutilations? Gohan said condescendingly while Gohan split his body in two to completely surround Cell with two bodies that were 5 times more powerful than Cell. No, wait. Stammered the immobilized Cell in fear. The same fear that a rat trapped in a trap feels before the eyes of 2 cats who were going to dispute who was going to eat her. However, those 2 cats named Gohan didn't intend to negotiate. Don't worry. This will be over soon. So just like Broly-sensei taught me. However, those 2 cats named Gohan didn't intend to negotiate. Don't worry. This will be over soon. So just like Broly-sensei taught me. Gohan hit Cell's head non-stop for several minutes, which looked like a punching ball that moved non-stop, being hit by the 2 Gohans from side to side over and over again, testing the limit of their resistance with each punch. Until Cell's brain couldn't take it anymore and he passed out for a split second. And when he came to, the only thing he could see was a single Gohan, who was looking at him condescendingly. What's wrong, Cell? You've peed inside your bio armor. One more insult to his pride that like Vegeta couldn't consent whatever the circumstances, be ########D. And not a second passed before he noticed that something even stranger than before had happened to his brain. What's this? What the ###L you did to me? This is my be a good child skill. Let's say it's an improved version of what you've been going through so far. An ability that will prevent you from fighting, insulting, or misbehaving. For all eternity. So forget forever about killing someone, destroying things or even ending your own life, said Gohan, who reported in great detail about the terrifying situation in which Cell was right now. What the ##K are you? Are you? And once again Cell experienced what was the true terror of the true terror. No, it can't be. It cannot be true. This can't be real. No. But Cell wasn't the only one who felt despair at that moment. Also Bulma, Trunks, Piccolo and Mutant Rashi, seeing that Gohan had once again chosen to leave alive a potential threat. This time being the biggest threat, except Broly, that they could imagine. Didn't he realize that this monster made from the cells of Frieza, his father, the evil Piccolo and Vegeta was irreformable? Wasn't there a possibility that he could break this curse in some way? You couldn't keep someone like that alive. No matter how much one respected life. Fortunately, Gohan understood that. I'm glad I was able to turn part of your life into hell. Now, I will send you towards the real one with this curse still on your soul, Gohan said as he grabbed Cell by the head. What? Stammered Cell, who began to cry in despair for the first time in his life. And in turn these were also the last tears of his life. Omega Blast. Boom! In Kami's palace. Dend, Gohan, Goku, Bulma and Mr. Popo kept holding Shinron back to make the second wish. You know what the second wish is? I don't have all day, Shinron said, for the 10th time in less than 5 minutes, something quite irritating. You only work once a year, stop complaining, Bulma thought influenced by Broly's constant criticism of Shinron. Yes, excuse me, I've already disintegrated Cell. Now bring back to life all the non-evil people who died on Earth today, including Vegeta, Yam, and Ginger just in case. And also repair the environmental damage that has been generated. It's possible. Gohan asked, still having some doubts about resurrection of the guys who had caused the most complications for them today. Yes, well done Gohan, just like I told you. Many islands have been destroyed today. If we resurrect people and they are resurrected in the middle of the ocean, they would die a second time, thought Bulma, thought also influenced by Broly, who used to comment anecdotally about several script errors or Dragon Ball. Yes, it's possible. Restore the planet to how it was before today and resurrect all non-evil people, except Vegeta and Yam, Shinron replied. Well, do it. We're in a hurry too, said Bulma, who was a bit grumpy and eager to get home, gather all of her bodies and take a good bath. The wish has already been granted. Goodbye, Shinron said, saying goodbye as always. Entering into the Dragon Ball and... Suddenly everyone was transported to another place. Hey! Where we are! Bulma yelled, looking from side to see what had happened. This wasn't Kami-sama's palace. What the hell has Shinron done? This has nothing to do with what we have asked, said Goku, who didn't understand the situation either. Because they had suddenly appeared in a huge 3D movie theater. A huge movie theater where many people were sitting. This is hell. Vegeta said, who didn't understand the situation yet, he only remembered dying heroically. Doesn't it seem so scary? Said Yam, who imagined that hell was something totally different. Oh, you are alive. Trunks yelled upon C that his alternate father, his lover, and the other were alive. Kakarot is here too. I think we aren't in hell. Ginger said, that understood the situation quickly. Ginger! Shouted mutant Rashi, who pounced on her to hug her emotionally, and pervertedly too. Rashi-chan, wait, there are people watching. Ginger shouted, very embarrassed, trying to push Rashi away, but without using violence or trying too hard. I'm not in heaven anymore, which means that Cell has been defeated and you have resurrected us all. Said Yamcha, who had already gotten used to life in heaven, he was even starting to pick up a girl there. That's right Yamcha, Gohan has saved us all this time. Piccolo replied, as he patted the heads of his students and adolescent godson of whom he felt so extremely proud. You are amazing Gohan. And you've grown, you're already taller than me. Krillin said, trying not to get more complex than usual. What happened? What? Said a somewhat familiar voice, but not so familiar as to be recognized instantly. It was from someone they knew, but not from their group of friends. But Daishinkan quickly identified who he belonged to, thanks to his super grudge, C-17. Is it you? What has happened? What are we doing here? C-18 said, that was sitting next to her brother and like him she didn't know what was happening either. I am very happy that you are well C-18. Ah, and C-17 I'm also happy to see that you're okay, said Krillin, who flew quickly towards C-18 to take her hand and celebrate their resurrection. Something that surprised the elf C-18 a lot, but she let it pass since she had too many worries to give importance to this action. C-16, my god, you are completely destroyed, Gohan said upon the deplorable state in which C-16 was, who couldn't move half of his body. You called me, Den said accompanied by Mr. Popo who thought someone had called him. Thanks for your concern. C-16 said respectfully as he stroked with the only hand that he could move a small baby seal that he protected from the shock waves while he was sunk in the sea. However, while everyone was still celebrating the fact that they were reunited and still alive, Bulma kept trying to remember where she had seen this place before. Wait, this place is... Until she had no more doubts upon hearing. Ladies and gentlemen. And Vegeta. Welcome to... Broly wasn't here today awards. Shouted Broly as if he were a showman addicted to methamphetamine, but dressed in a tailor-made suit and on top of a stage with many golden statues of himself. Yes, just as I suspected. Bulma said as she hit herself in the face upon verifying that her premonition had been fulfilled. Who else could have brought them to a place like this right after they had solved the biggest crisis they had ever experienced? It's more. How is it possible that she hadn't recognized the private movie theater of Broly's Island Mansion? Congratulations to all. You have been summoned to my private theater in my secret mansion that only Bulma knew, for obvious reasons, for this great ceremony in which your performance will be valued by me, obviously, in how you have faced adversity on the only day that I, your incredible master of ceremonies, was absent in a moment of danger, for a matter. Where are these applause? Come on guys. Said Broly with excessive enthusiasm to motivate the injured, tired, stunned, angry and in some cases recently resurrected public. I knew. The bastard hasn't been fighting anything. He's been laughing at us the whole time. Piccolo thought as he killed Broly with his mind in many ways, some very imaginative, because this Piccolo carried Piccolo and Kami's joint resentment. None of them wanted to go along with the guy who dumped them, but since that guy was crazy and almighty. Plas. 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 If I were you, I would also applaud. Although like us I know you want to strangle him. Believe me, Cell is just a puppy by comparison, Krillin said to C-18, C-17 and C-16, even though he didn't have both arms, who still didn't know Broly fully and how terrifying he was when his events didn't go as he expects. However, the absence of applause from the crowd didn't discourage him, so he continued with his crazy idea of the end of the saga. Thanks. Let's see. We will start with the award 2. The biggest disappointment of the day. Come here Goku. Broly said as he took out Goku's name from an envelope and indicated him to go up to the stage. Me, Goku asked with great surprise. He didn't expect to win an award today, much less an award with this title that sounded so disappointing. That's right, you were such an idiot as to fall ill the same day of the confrontation. Day that was prophesied years ago and for which you had preventive and active medication to avoid it. It was something you could have prevented, just like most of this android disaster. Because of that detail, you got all your friends in trouble by getting into a fight with cardiovascular disease in which they had to protect you and you were absent for many hours in which you didn't contribute anything. Although perhaps it was better that way, since due to your unnecessary desire to contribute you caused Cell to become more powerful by bringing him a delicious chaos when Piccolo already had the situation under control. Also, it took a long time to bring Den to restore the Dragon Balls, so this is another negative point. Take the award and get out of my sight. Broly said in a long and critical speech in which he was patting his shoulder quite annoyingly to finally award him with a golden statue of Broly showing the middle finger. To later kick Goku off the stage while throwing rotten fruit at him. Well, if you say so. Goku replied as he left the stage quite depressed. That harsh but coherent criticism had seriously affected Goku's morale. A damage that would embitter his existence, for a few minutes, then he would forget. And then while Goku was consoled by the public, despite the fact that they agreed with Broly's criticism, the host continued with his awards ceremony. The following is the award to I have contributed negatively on this day. And go. We have 2 winners. Vegeta, Yam, come on. Nah, I will teleport you directly and keep you quiet until I finish, said Broly as he teleported, paralyzed and silenced the rebellious couple, who didn't want to participate in this show. And just like with Goku, he gave them a disastrous rating, but in a much more hurtful way. You started out pretty well saving these overconfident idiots. You really did very well, but then you acted stupid on your own by not paying attention to Bulma. Because of that you had to be saved by Bulma and later you sabotaged the entire team by destroying Bulma's equipment. That subtracts many points. Due to your stupidity, you wanted to face C-17 and C-18 without anyone's help, instead of killing them when they hadn't yet awakened, and as it was evident that it was going to happen they gave you a very humiliating beating. A beating that should have taught you what humility is, and that this is not a fucking game created for you amusing. But no. You didn't learn a fucking shit. You once again made the situation worse to unsuspected limits in the most stupid way possible, endangering the entire universe. In the end you minimally redeemed by sacrificing yourself for all the mistakes you made, although it didn't help. The latter adds points but, it is impossible to recover the uselessness that you have previously shown. This award belongs to you. Any words? Fuck you. Yam and Vegeta answered as soon as they had a chance to vocalize something before being teleported back to their seats. Thanks, maybe later. Let's continue with the next award. The award to the most pathetic death. It's for you Chaos. Don't get up. Seriously, the only thing you did today is get an incredible power-up that wasn't dependent on you, and be pathetically devoured and increase the power of the enemy. Very pathetic. Take that, said Broly as he threw something at Chaos from the stage. A candy. Chaos said, feeling very humiliated and disappointed. Shit taste, like your death, Broly replied with a wide smile, which contrasted enormously with Chaos' pale and sad face, to then continue distributing traumas, and the next award is closely related. The award to the most useful death. Come here, Yamcha. What? Me? Yamcha answered with some fear as it was a prize from Broly towards him, but somewhat excited since it contained the useful word in it. That's right, Yamcha. Thanks to the fact that you died very early, you couldn't screw up the future situation even more, something that you would surely do. Congratulations. Now sit down, Broly said as he handed him a trophy/sculpture of himself, laughing out loud as he cruelly pointed out the classic Yamcha death meme. Anyway, why did I get my hopes up? Yamcha thought dejectedly as he returned to his seat holding his humiliating adward. HaHaHa, that was fun. The next award belongs to a very special category. The best sacrifice. Come, Ginger. Broly said, indicating Ginger to go up, or else he would be forced to do the same as he did with his sister and partner. Therefore, Ginger decided to go up voluntarily, but with little enthusiasm. You started the day believing that you could handle everything by being a Super Saiyan, that you had everything under control, that you were the heroine, that you had already graduated from being Yam's obedient little sister, that you were a different Ginger. But you were very overconfident, due to that you screwed up, then Yam saved you and with it your confidence and plans for independence died, so you went back to being his lapdog. And, like every irrational tsundere, you paid all your frustration with your boyfriend or love interest, Mutant Rashi, when he cared about you. You told him that he was in the way, although it was true at the time, and despite knowing that Vegeta and Yam were acting badly, you preferred to listen to them before Rashi, who was only looking out for your well-being. However, you redeemed yourself at the last moment despite the orders, rational at the time, from your sister and decided to give your life to save your loved one from his death in a moving and cool way. Congratulations, Ginger, you have improved as a person, now you just need not to forget what you have learned today. And above all to fuck a lot and very hard with Rashi, I know he is looking forward to it. And I think you too. Broly said in another of his long summaries, handing out a gold award that immortalized the moment she gave her life for Rashi, while reading Rashi and Ginger's minds. Yes. Rashi cheered happily, who had been waiting for that moment for years. Shut up. Eki. Ginger replied, blushing excessively and with the tone of a tsundere about to come out of her shell when she found a moment of intimacy. FIU. That was undoubtedly one of the most cheered moments by all who were there, who were delighted with this reconciliation. Crank. Although some, like for example Yam, broke his award to show his disagreement. And now the next award occupies a very big place in my heart. The award of I've been thinking with the cock since I saw her and even more since she kissed me, C18 please date with me. A loud applause for Krillin, who you can see next to C18, the girl with whom he is in love. Yes, right there, hiding between the armchairs while looking for the exit of this place. He seems embarrassed. Don't you want to go up? Broly said as he watched how Krillin experienced extreme shame. Extreme shame that escalated. Looking at C18's expression, she seemed very outraged due to that revelation. An embarrassment that turned into a very sharp pain that got worse every time Broly spoke. Crash. 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 To the point where hitting his head against the door was the only thing that made him feel less bad. However, Broly wasn't satisfied with only causing that disaster, although with good intentions, since he predicted that this would make them be together in the future. He continued with his macabre unrewarding awards ceremony. How? That you would rather be dead? Okay. I'll give you the award later, let's move on to the next. The award of the one that has been humiliated more times, has been surpassed by almost everyone, has been pigeonholed as a minor character. And is also a shorty. Is for Broly IEIE. However, the humiliating show was suddenly interrupted by the shrill, dark and terrifying of a very, very, very angry Bulma who was walking up to the stage stomping on the ground. As if she were a humanoid kaiju with a desire for revenge. It was there when Broly felt the true terror. This meant the award for the most attractive girl, intelligent, suspictive, kind, not spiteful and that definitely wouldn't get angry with her beloved Broly. Is you, my love. However, luckily, Broly was prepared for a situation like this, so he immediately hid the award dedicated to Vegeta and exchanged it for a life-size gold statue of Bulma wearing the Playboy bunny in honor of the figure that Broly liked the most of his woman in his previous life. Woof. Did he have this award ready? He's very farsighted, Vegeta thought, since he really admired Broly for that. Those abilities would have been very useful to him to counteract Yam's anger during his most difficult years. This tactic seemed to have had some effect, since her murderous instinct had diminished compared from few seconds ago. However, that bloodlust was still there, so when she reached the stage, grabbed Broly from the lapels of his suit and with a menacing smile and bloodshot eyes asked, "Darling, tell me. Have you pretended that there was an enemy who could copy you in order to have an excuse, leave us, spy on us and not help us with the pretext that we have to solve our problems by ourselves without depending so much on you, and then laugh at everything and everyone when everything is settled? You see, honey. We love and know each other so much that we can even read our minds. Isn't that romantic?" Broly answered, who after analyzing the situation determined that the only way to fix the situation was to resort to his peculiar humor and affection that they had for each other. However, that brilliant strategy didn't work. On the contrary, Bulma got even more angry than before, so much that she was even beginning to transform into a Super Saiyan despite being human. Fuck. This time she is very angry. She will not easily forgive me for lying to her in such a pathetic way and leaving her in the care of this group of idiots unable to do anything with a minimum of coherence, Broly thought as he telepathically opened his emergency safe within his dimension and took out a single rectangular item. And that object is a case? The point is that I thought about waiting for this day. The day you would show the world that you are the best and that none of them would be able to survive if it weren't for your help to prove that I couldn't live without you either, Broly said in a poetic voice as he knelt before Bulma, held the case at hand height and then slowly opened it. "Oh my!" shouted Bulma, who stopped grabbing Broly's neck to cover her mouth cover in amazement at what was happening around her. "This can't be happening. He's really going to." Bulma brief. "Would you marry this almighty mutant scion who is crazy, especially for you?" Broly said while still kneeling as he showed a ring composed of more than 1,000,000 mini diamonds from different universes and colors that he himself made for this day. That moment was the moment. The moment when the strongest warriors on the planet were speechless and with their hearts beating to an inhuman rhythm. Since Bulma's answer could have consequences never seen before, for their relationship, friendship and even universal security. Nobody dared to say anything, or to emit the slightest sound, not even that of breathing. Everything, possibly all creation depended of Bulma's answer. "Broly. Of course I want, crazy idiot." Bulma yelled through tears as she grabbed Broly's bowed head and gave him a double-threaded screw kiss. "Yes. It has worked. I'm a genius." Broly thought with double satisfaction. He had put out the fire now and would also get wet tonight. And after a few seconds of rest in which our warriors and their companions began to breathe again. "Wow. I wasn't expecting this ending," Trunks said, who found strange to see someone kiss his mother, even though she was his alternate young mother. And after having successfully declared and quenching Bulma's anger, Broly threw the rest of the awards around the stage while leaving with Bulma in his arms outside the cinema, to the huge garden of Broly. Thus leaving the entire audience in suspense. Some still couldn't react with their mouths wide open. Others rubbed their eyes when they saw how Broly reversed the situation. Others just didn't understand anything at all. And a certain feeling also emerged among the female audience, who looked at their partners or love interests with certain expectations in addition to those they had a few seconds ago. And one with a certain resentment. "I also would have liked Goku to ask for marriage to me like this," Chi-Chi said, though was the only married one in the audience, and that as we all know she was the one who proposed and in a not very romantic way. "So what happens with the award ceremony?" "Keeps going. Will there be any more Edouards for me?" Goku said, who was unable to notice that her wife was looking at him in a very surly way, as if she were disappointed in him. "I'm afraid not, Dad. Almost all of them are for negative, stupid, or embarrassing things. Like the award for Best Nanny, the second most attractive guy with 3 eyes, the smallest adult scion, the cuckiest, the prince without a kingdom that smells worse, the most pathetic moment, the worst alternative father, Vegeta is a jerk. And almost all of them are for Vegeta," said Gohan, who was inspecting the undelivered awards that Broly left behind to see if he could find his. "Hey guys. There is a huge banquet behind this door. One of Broly's corps has forced me to say that C-16, C-17 and C-18 are invited. They will sit next to Krillin," said Ten Shinhan, who was one of the first to leave that place since Chaos was sick due to the shit-flavored candy that Broly had given him. "Yes. Is there nothing better than a feast after traveling the universe? Right, son?" Goku said that when he heard about food he completely forgot about the awards and his lack of fights. And it is also the best after defeating an evil android from the future, said Gohan, who had inherited his father's appetite. And with them they all went out of that theater to celebrate the victory against the androids and the commitment between Bulma and Broly, even though Trunks and Yamcha felt a bit violent about that. There were only 3 people who hadn't followed the group. What do we do, sister? C-17 asked as he carried C-16, who was now unable to move on his own. The banquet is free. Why not? Said the materialist C-18, who told her younger brother that they should take advantage if they had been invited. After Broly's chocolate fondue party a week passed, where peace and tranquility once again reigned. Trunks returned to his timeline to destroy the androids and Cell that continued to inhabit his Earth. Gohan and friends convinced C-16, C-17, and C-18 to undergo reprogramming at Bulma's expense to prevent them from indiscriminately killing people, especially Goku, to get rid of bombs or other control engines in their bodies, and they could reintegrate into society, and above all help them to reintegrate into society. Yamcha underwent the same operation as everyone to avoid being the laughingstock of the group. He could still compete with Chaos, and went to train with the hermits Ten Shinhan and Chaos, some weeks. Mutant Rashi returned to his Caribbean island with his girlfriend 100 years younger than him, with whom him was finally able to fulfill his dream, lose his virginity. Piccolo continued to train alone, well, with his mini-selves, and from time to time he would instruct Dend with his duties as god, and he also helped Gohan in whatever way he could, the best nanny in Dragon Ball. And as for the rest of the Saiyans and their families, well, right now they were at Bulma's house, specifically in the garden. Doing. Jeffrey, bring me a martini, shaken, not stirred. And some peanuts too, roasted with honey if possible. Said Broly, who was lying on a lounger in a carefree way while he ordered his personal butler to satisfy his appetite and pedantry. JRRJJJJ. For the last time, stop calling me Jeffrey. This is excessively humiliating. His butler replied, that turned out to be Vegeta dressed in tuxedo, who obeyed Broly and prepared his cocktail despite actively complaining. Don't complain, Jeffrey, I'm preparing you for your imminent future. By the way, Alfred, your foot massage leaves much to be desired. Didn't you learn anything at the Butler Academy? Broly said, referring to the future training that he would have with Beerus, at the same time that he spoke with his second butler. What Butler Academy are you talking about? Better this way. Said the second butler, which turned out to be Goku dressed in a tuxedo too, following Broly's orders, tried harder in the foot massage that he was performing. Yes, relatively better. But if you want me to teach you my perfect Saiyan body multiplication technique that I teach Gohan to become stronger, you better try harder. Especially after your pathetic performance in this saga. Thank you, Linus, said Broly as he took the martini that Vegeta had made and drank it with satisfaction. Call me by my name. You bastard. Vegeta protested, telling himself over and over again to hold on, he can't allow Goku to learn that technique and surpass him. And while Goku and Vegeta suffered in a humiliating way for Broly to sell them a technique, his wives had fun eating delicious delicacies from the gourmet world. Ash, if it continues like this, Broly will never have real friends, although he looks happy, unlike the other two. Said Bulma, who felt a bit sorry for Goku and Vegeta, although she had to admit that it was fun to see them dressed in tuxedo. It comforts me to know that Vegeta will teach me that technique when Broly teaches it to him, Yim said, which has already overcome all the resentment she felt towards Bulma. Well, at least Goku is working. And it is a detail that Broly also pays them with money to act as a servant, said Chi-Chi, which was already operated by Bulma and joined the elite of super powerful women. Ha 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 ha. Broly laughed out loud upon hearing the conversation that the 3 girls were having. That obviously hurt the already cracked heart of the butler Vegeta, who was almost about to leave, grjjjjjj. Damn bastard. Vegeta. Do you know why I am always so severe with you? Asked Broly, who got up from the hammock to speak face to face with Vegeta, although due to the difference in size he had to crouch, something that made it even more humiliating. And Vegeta, who had almost reached the limit of his patience and sanity, told Broly exactly what he thought, because you're a fucking bastard who enjoys teasing others. Because my family intended to kill you and because I fucked with your alternate wife? Yes, among many other things. But, especially because it pisses you off that you always behave like a stupid psychopathic and egocentric jerk. Seriously, you're a guy with potential, not just for fights. I wish I could see more often the Vegeta who turned his back on his stupid self-destructive ideology to save his alternate son, or the one who sacrificed himself to make up for his mistakes and sins to save the planet he claims to hate so much, Broly said with great seriousness while reinforcing his speech with a pat on the shoulder to show that he meant this from the bottom of his heart. An incredible statement that left Vegeta stunned, with his mind completely blank. He never expected Broly to say something like that ever, and much less to him. That show of respect, concern and even paternalistic moved him so much that he almost began to cry. While the rest of the people who heard that discourse felt an inexplicable fear. What? Broly saying nice things about Vegeta. What is happening? Is this a hidden camera show? An elaborate joke? Is the end of the world near again? Oh. Did he really do that for my alternate son? How cute. Said Bulma, who was shocked to hear that Vegeta prioritized his alternate son over his stupid ideology of Saiyan supremacy. A comment that slightly fueled the resentment that Yam had forgotten a few days ago. Wow, really? Chi-Chi exclaimed that he couldn't believe that Vegeta had any kind of human feeling. Ladies, get back to your business. Vegeta yelled, very embarrassed. He couldn't help but blush for all this talk. But, were you serious, Broly? Asked Bulma, who noticed that there was something strange here. Her Broly isn't like that, at least not with Vegeta. Of course, I think Vegeta can improve a lot as a person. I mean, he's a complete and absolute garbage, from the worst of the worst. So horrible that practically no one can fall lower. It could be said that he has hit the bottom so much that his only possibility to advance is improvement. And since he has started to take a few small steps, it shouldn't be so difficult to take some more, Broly answered, caressing Vegeta's head in a very rough way, who looked at him again as a target to kill. Anyway, it was nice while it lasted, Bulma said, partly glad to know that she was right. Luckily for Vegeta and Goku. Broly, who was no longer interested in alcoholic drinks, snacks, and foot massages. So he freed them from their humiliating task, since he had another more interesting project on his hands. Sure. Today, apart from enjoying this humiliation, we also have a very special event. Gohan's big idea presentation. Although I have helped him a little, I wish you looked a little more like him. Gohan, repeat what you learned that day. That we have to end the threats before they happen if possible, no matter how willing we are to fight. That we cannot underestimate the enemy or overestimate ourselves. That the 1vs1 combat formalities when we have a numerical advantage are stupid when the survival of the universe is at stake. That you always have to be prepared and trained in case of an emergency. That having an effective and efficient plan is as or more important than being stronger than the rival. That leaving genocidal victims alive is an enormous stupidity. And that my father is incapable of self-medicating, Gohan answered, who approached the large table where the women were, at the same time that he shared for everyone a great reflection that every shonen character, especially in this manga, should study thoroughly. MFFF. I am so proud of you. But I'll be even more proud of you in a few moments, answered Broly, who pretended to wipe away non-existent tears as he approached the table too. Thank you, Sensei. I wanted to present my family business idea to you, said Gohan, who wanted to share with everyone the business idea that he had been studying for years. I'm dying to know what our dear son has thought. Any new kind of garden crop? Open some kind of store in the capital. Supplement something small in which to work all together as a family. He's so adorable. Too bad he grew so fast, Chi-Chi thought, very moved to see that her adorable son had the initiative to help the family finances, even if the contribution is small or doesn't materialize. For her, the fact that a man in her house had that concern and the initiative was already an achievement in itself. The constant fights between my parents for economic reasons have made me think for years of some way to end them. And this was my idea. Turn our house into a great luxury resort/safari, Gohan said as he opened his briefcase from which a hologram of the surrounding grounds of his house was displayed. Next to his house there weren't hundreds of mansions, supermarkets, squares, tourist lakes, roads. There weren't dozens of housing estates. Wait. Gohan, why are there so many mansions around Mount Paozu? Chi-Chi asked, who was overwhelmed by the size and nature of Gohan's project. You see, Mom, I was investigating and these lands aren't owned by anyone, not even the government, since originally this was an area infested with dangerous monsters and no one wanted to claim the lands. However, Grandpa Gohan and Papa have been living here for decades, and according to an old law, if someone has lived on land without property for more than 3 generations or 100 years, those lands become the property of the family. So officially we are the owners of 500,000 hectares of Mount Paozu, Gohan said while projecting the different laws along with their legal gaps and a map that showed the extension of land they owned, without knowing it. HaHaHa act. Really ai. Shouted Goku and Chi-Chi, who had no idea about this. Yup, today we went to the notary to formalize it, said Broly, who helped his minor student with the government paperwork, all legal. How could we not know that before? Shouted Chi-Chi, who was overwhelmed by this informational bomb. How is it possible that her husband owns so much land without even knowing it? Fuck. The extension of this land is bigger than that of some small countries. I don't know. I guess lack of studies. The fact is that we have a lot of almost heavenly land to exploit, and the luxury and semi-luxury real estate market in remote areas is a great option. Especially considering how overcrowded the main cities are now and the great baby boom after the various invasions of genocidal monsters, the fear of death helps to procreate. If to that we add the attraction of the fauna of the place, which we have tamed, we could turn the surroundings into a protected safari. Safari where Dad could work, he would just have to guide the tourists around the area and make sure none of them get hurt due to the animals. We would earn a fortune in rentals, land sales, safari tickets, business commissions that would be established in the area, tolls to reach the urbanization. Gohan said as he showed the estimates of the possible benefits with the hologram. Wait. Gohan. But how do you intend to pay for all this? We don't have so much money to build so many things. Chi-Chi said, who began to get dizzy upon see the scale of the project of her son from elementary school, but with the body of a teenager, inverse Detective Conan. The possible annual profits were brutal, thousands of times higher than what they could earn right now in millions of years. How could SH say no to this? However, Chi-Chi understood perfectly that in order to earn all that money, first they had to invest a large sum to be able to build all this. And it wasn't just the money, it was the time it would take to make a profit after this great inversion. No bank would lend them that amount. Don't worry Mom, I have saved a lot this time to invest in this project, and thanks to the creator of matter of Broly and Bulma, my ability to multiply and my strength. And if we add to that father and the construction robots, we will hardly have any costs and we will be able to finish the critical points in less than a year, said Gohan, who had also taken that detail into account, not for nothing approved the Broly's Master of Business Administration and Management. Besides, I also plan to help. I own 20% of the shares of the company, Son and Associates, so I will ensure that my investment and yours obtain great profits, said Broly, who gave his seal of quality to that project. A project that being Broly involved would be successful by hook or by crook, he can alter reality. But, that whole place being run only by us? Chi-Chi asked again. She just couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that they would become millionaires in such a short time. There must be some flaw or trap in all of this. It was too good to be true. Don't worry about it either. I have already contacted several friends of ours without many intellectual capacities to earn money, despite having superhuman capacities, so that they are part of our elite staff, said Broly, who as a member of the board of directors and shareholder also took care of certain matters for the company. Yes, we have talked to Krillin, who needs work. He recently looked to be a policeman, but they paid him a pittance compared to what we can offer. We also have the help of C-16, who loves animals, and surprisingly also that of C-17, and C-18 as well, who immediately accepted when she heard the salary, the hours of work and the various bonuses such as paid housing. And Ten Shinhan and Ginger also seemed interested. This will also suit Father, who will be able to train after work with them. And also for you Mother, since in part they will make sure that Dad takes his job seriously, it is a bonus that will come in the salary. And you of course will be the great landlady and manager. Trust my mom, everything is under control, Gohan said, ending his first official business presentation, with which he would ensure that his family had a secure income and were busy. This is wonderful, Gohan. I've been careless for a few days and you've already become the man of the house. Finally. Bua bua. Buaya. Bua. Chi-Chi said, who jumped from the table to hug and kiss Gohan dozens of times. Chi-Chi was very happy to see how her son had grown, and at the end she began to cry for the joy and relief she felt when she definitively contrasted that all the effort, concern and hard work she had put into her son had been rewarded. Mom, don't cry, calm down, it's over. Everything will be better from now on, said Gohan, who also started crying while he hugged his mother. Meanwhile his father, who heard exactly that same speech, came to another conclusion. Great, I will be able to train daily with everyone. This clown has no salvation. Vegeta said, even he understood that that should be the least important info of everything that had been said. Exactly how much do you pay Gohan? Yam asked, who approached Gohan and Chi-Chi to talk business. And Broly, seeing that the chick he found less than a decade ago had become the eagle he always wanted it to be. He left the scene with joy and pride so that Gohan had the opportunity to spread his wings even more. I'd a great idea, Broly. Although I can think of something else you could do with that terrain. Organize weddings and events. And that reminds me of. What kind of madness do you have planned for our wedding? Bulma asked, who approached her fiancé to congratulate him for his new project in which it was clear that he wanted to help his friends, and especially to flirt. You'll find out, darling, but... Spoiler alert. WLLB Legendary. Broly answered, ending the android saga with a fiery kiss. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.